Make a sheet of paper, your interlocutor. Write tirelessly. Live by the passion and keep your heart pure. That was one of Mukagali Makatayev's poems, a lesson to aspiring poets. These verses encompass everything that every single aspiring author should know about the values and objectives of the gift of writing. In the vast lands of Kazakhstan, from Altai to Atarau, there is not a single Kazakh who grew up without being exposed to Mukagali's poetry. Even today, pupils from all across the country gather together to participate in artistic poetry recitation contests. That is how popular the poet is. It is safe to say that Mukagali was the poet who has raised Kazakh poetry to cosmic heights. Makbal Musa is a poet, member of the Union of Writers and Journalists of Kazakhstan. She is the winner of Jansugurov and Makatayev Republican contest. Apart from this, she won the first prize of the Republican Altyn Tolbilgi contest, organized by the Foundation of Kazakhstan's first president. Also, Makbal is a winner of 100 New Faces of Kazakhstan project. Once, they will remember me and write about me. The poet said these prophetic words about himself. Indeed, there were lots of things written about him. A grand book of memoirs about the poet. Some of those memoirs have already become folk legends. One of the first people to perceive Mukagali's talent was a famous poet, Abdilda Tajibayev. Once, he has read young poets' poems and wrote, "It is impossible not to praise the one whose fire and talent shine brighter than my own." The When the Swans Sleep poem was appreciated by Kazakh classic Gabit Musrepov. He has given Mukagali a golden quill, which is still kept in his museum. Famous Kazakh writer Abish Kekilbayev was the first to make a literary analysis of Mukagali's works. Mukagali for Kazakh poetry is one of those sons it was waiting for. He is a genuine phenomenon for our national culture, authentic and folk. A great phenomenon, a great poet. Nation that has a son like Mukagali is immortal. Literature that has talents like this will always be current. Society experiencing joy of life and bitterness of truth lives and evolves. Mukagali will forever be a part of his people. As the poet himself was saying, "I am a man of the mountains, was made by a mountain, was born at the foot of the mountain. Yershen Buyrek, Tian Shan Spurs, Karasaz village, one of the most picturesque places in our country." And here, it seems, trees singing in the wind are whispering poets' verses. Striking in their grandeur mountains and fragrant green meadows inspired Mukagali. Living in places like this, the poet couldn't help glorifying the vast Kazakh lands. And his poem, Altai Altarau, is a great example of it. Incredible fact, nature and wind have naturally created Mukagali's portrait in one of the canyons in his homeland. This canyon is still called after the poet. Mukagali Makatayev was born in 1931. He was the oldest son in the family of 3 children. When he was a teenager, he has lost his father and had to shoulder the burden of adulthood. After he has graduated from Narinkol boarding school, he started to work as a village council secretary, manager of a red yurt, employee of Komsomol bodies, and literary officer of the district newspaper. He had his first poems published when he was only 17 years old. After he has moved to Alma-Ata, he worked as a radio presenter on Kazakh radio, then as a journalist for Socialistic Kazakhstan newspaper, was an employee at Zhulduz magazine, managed Youth Affairs Council at the Union of Writers. He studied at Gorky Literature Institute in Moscow. Despite the hardships he endured in his life, starting from 1962, when his first book was released, and until 1976, when Makatayev has died, 8 collections of his poems were published. Among them, Hello, Friends, When the Swans Sleep, My Light, Dariga, Love is a Poem, and others. Many of his poems were set to music. For instance, a song based on his poem, Zarja Liao, has become a folk song. Mukagali Makatayev was posthumously awarded with Kazakh State Prize.
Муза.
Muse, power of this word we have learned through Mukagali's poems. The poet had an immense faith into his muse, and he used to say that when he was sitting at his desk and trying to write, he has always heard some mysterious whisper. It was a magical moment when a soul leaves the earth and is flying through the universe. The poet has always been seizing these moments, and in his short but vibrant life, he has created some incredible poetic masterpieces. Mukagali is one of those rare talents who has managed to reflect his own portrait in his works, and his poem Dariga proves this fact. Dariga is a poem of a person who is head over heels in love with life, a work that testifies to the maturity of his talent. It depicts sobering and bitter truth about a cruel time. For the poet, it was a moment when his talent, same as a stallion roaming in the vast lands, found a new way of expressing itself, an epic medium. This is a lyrical work that can touch every reader's heart. She was like a white swan, my beautiful jenge, and like a dumb man, I lapsed into silence once I saw her. No, I wasn't afraid. She wasn't strict after all. And it seemed like the whole world laughed when Dariga was laughing. Everything was sparkling. Everyone felt joy. But when she cried, dews were dropping from fading leaves beside the window. The poem describes an uneasy time of war and its hardships. Men, breadwinners, went to war. Women were left to do the hardest job. They had to deal with terrible losses and parting with their men. Back then, future poet was only 10 years old. That is why war has left ineffaceable scars in his childhood memories. The only bright shaft of light justifying years of adversities was his muse Dariga. Poem's protagonist is a young girl, beautiful inside and out. Dariga was a collective image of women of the Great Patriotic War. Women who survived the tragedy of war. Girls whose youth was lost in those days. Her husband went to war and Dariga, along with other women, went haymaking. The poem has become a literary basis for a lyrical romantic play. It was staged by honored worker of Kazakhstan, Raimbek Setmetov and Nurkanat Jakubbayev. The show was very popular among the audiences, and its adapted version was even broadcast on radio. The main protagonist, the one who loved to hum songs, was kind. Her heart and soul were hurt. From the very morning until the late evening, she would sing about her sorrows. Song was her only source of hope. The war was terrible, but jealousy and wickedness of women who couldn't bear her beauty and kindness were even worse. Indeed, gossiping is one of the most hideous human vices. Young protagonist, the narrator of the story, at some point has believed gossips about Dariga's liaisons with the foreman. He started to hate Dariga, but after some time he tried to defend her. He follows his jenge, elder brother's wife, everywhere. He wants to bask in the rays of her kindness and hear her affectionate tintiek. Mischievous. Your kumus is delicious. Mischievous. Pour me a cup again, and I will drink it. Bottoms up. I look at my very own Jenishe. Her features are so great that I can't resist admiring her. Out of the corner of my eye, I look at Sweetie's lips. There is nothing there because of sad melody. What is the mystery that I have learnt? Your laughter is about to spill. And at this moment, you remind me of a mischievous lamb. I gave her party-colored tostahan, and she has sipped some milk from it. I once again stand stock still, my sorrows drowned in bliss. I don't have any hesitations, only tenderness and pity, but I can hear her voice. I'm going to get some wild leek, and you sit here, my tientiek, my mischievous and my impatient. We are not parting forever, so don't you shake your shaggy mane. I will be there at that brook. I can't stand insipid food anymore. We'll bring some leek for lunch. I want something pungent very much. After sincere conversation, the world didn't appear as cruel, and life seemed brighter and happier. Touched by this moment, Mukagali saw her off with a sense of deep regret. Bright world, how amazing you are. How sweet your breathing is. He saw the handkerchief flying into abyss, as if she waved him goodbye. Then a blue dress flew down. Farewell, my mischievous, were her last words that reverberated from the rocks. And child's heart was broken, and it was about to leave his chest. Broken destinies, lost hopes, she has taken everything from him into that abyss. You were my muse, spreading your eyebrows, wings. You could send rush through my blood with your song. And the rocks and the snow were radiant with your farewell light. Oh, my heart, my Dariga, you made me a poet. That is how the sorrow has overtaken his poems, and the poet's heart was now beating in the name of Dariga. At the very core of Makatayev's works is the research. Mukagali was a meditative poet. His me has always been a quest for his true self. It was this philosophical me, roaming the planet, searching for harmony between life and death, a person and society. The poem possesses philosophical depth, and it describes spiritual and psychological crisis of a human being. It is a meditation, basically. Dariga's character has encompassed topics of people's lives in the home front, questions of humanity, honesty, and honor. The author uses psychological collisions to demonstrate never-ending battle between spirit and passion.
Pay ömür, ötesin ау bir күні. Қиясың ау қуанышты күлкіні. Өмір деген бір жарық еткен найзағай, өмір деген көк аспанның күркірі, пай өмір өтесің ау бір күні. Болмағандай, жүрмегендей сенде біз, кетеміз ау, әй кетеміз, пендеміз. Ұрпақтарға береміз де кезекті, біз кетеміз, кету үшін келгеміз. Өмір деген бұйым емес қолдағы, өмір дейтін ұлы бекет жолдағы. Қаның кеуіп қаталаған кезіңде сусыныңды қандырсаң бір болғаны. Мына күнде, мына аспанда далан ау, бәрі бізден қаладау. Өмір дейтін тағатсыз бір қозғалыс, өмір дейтін өлемін деп қарамау.
In 1985, after Mukagali has died, the Union of Writers of Kazakhstan has founded an award in his name. And in 1999, the poet has been posthumously awarded with the state prize and the title of the Poet of the Century. In the eve of his 60th birthday, the museum was opened in his home city. There is a school in Almaty that was named after Makatayev, and the street where his monument was placed. His outstanding works were translated into many world languages. It is curious that in 1968, the interpretation of Abai's verses was issued, and 25 years later, the same book, based on Mukagali Makatayev's poems, was published. It has become a very important event in Kazakh literature. Over time, more and more poets' works are becoming the object of thorough research. Mukagali Makatayev, a poet, might die, but no one can ever kill his verses. His poems are our heritage, the one that will always live in his people's memory.